to achieving that world. A world where gender equality is not a concern. A sustainable world for tomorrow. A world that breaks bias. Join your public broadcaster on the 8th of March 2022, live at Kololo Independence Grounds, and make this year's International Women's Day your day. Because for a sustainable tomorrow, we must all do whatever we can to truly take action for gender equality today. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
A very good evening to you all and welcome to the second and final edition of News Tonight here on UBC TV. This Monday, the 7th day of March 2022. First though, let's have a look at our main stories.
Brought to you by
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
everywhere you go. MTN.
Tonight, President Yoweri Museveni bans land evictions. Katuna border post fully reopens. Miloland stalemate dominates Buganda Lukiko debate. And in sports, Pilsner Monthly Award, Coach Timbe and Ford Mukwala are January-February best.
Was brought to you by everywhere you go. MTN.
Hello there and welcome once again. We are coming to you live online and on air from Broadcast House here on Nile Avenue. On sign language, it is Elizabeth Nakakoni and I am Rukidi Edward Kiijanangoma. President Yoweri Museveni has banned all land evictions in the country that are carried out without the consent of their respective district security committees, DSCs. In a letter dated February the 28th, 2022, addressed to the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Robin Nabanja, and using his powers under Article 98(1) and 99(1) of the Constitution of Uganda that enjoins him to ensure good governance and protect the Constitution, the President directed that, and I quote, "No eviction should be allowed to take place in a district without the consent and direct observation of the District Security Committee chaired by the Resident District Commissioner or Resident City Commissioner and direct consultation with the Minister for Lands." End of quote. His Excellency, the President said, if this is not done and the illegal evictions go ahead, The members of the District Security Committee will all be held responsible and action will be taken against them. This, however, excludes the UPDF representatives who may not be in the know of the substance of the issues involved. In the same communication, the President requested His Lordship Chief Justice to prevail upon the justices and magistrates who violate the Constitution by illegally evicting people in collusion with land grabbers. He further directed the Minister for Lands to inform the Attorney General about such abuses by judicial officers so that legal action can be taken against them. The First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Mrs. Janet Kataha Museveni, has praised the Mastercard Foundation for its continued investment in the training and skilling of young people of Uganda. The First Lady was meeting the new Mastercard Foundation head in Uganda, Adrian Bukenya, together with his predecessor, Samuel Adela, who paid a courtesy call on her at State House Nakasero on Friday. The meeting was also attended by the State Minister for Higher Education, Dr. John Chrysostom Muyingo, and the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe. The Mastercard Foundation has been implementing a $20 million US dollar project in the country. It has benefited 1,032 academically bright but economically disadvantaged youth from Africa and have been unable to access quality education since 2013. The students receive comprehensive financial, academic, psychosocial and mentorship support, plus leadership training and transition support, among others. Mrs. Museveni wondered why there is a 1.3% dropout rate of students under the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at Makerere University. She described the program as well planned and financed and tasked Makerere leadership to conduct a study on the issue of dropout. She requested the foundation's head to consider enrolling young people from the Karamoja sub-region under the vulnerable young students to benefit from the Scholars Program.
In these very difficult times, so I can make a request to you to decide a number and give it to Karamoja students as a region in our country. I don't know whether any of these numbers include Karamoja.
I think that's a proposal we can give back to the Scholars Program and tell them the interest of your interest in what you've requested, and see how they come back. Because again, the critical thing is the scholarship program is a very democratic process, and we can be intentional about how and whom accesses it. We're indeed targeting youth who are vulnerable, so that they can have equal opportunities as other youth who have access to this. So I think we'll take your request on advisement and share it with the scholars team and see how they will consider that.
I think that African students across our continent have one major problem that really stops them from growing. When they leave university, they try to look for jobs, indeed, as you were saying. Even in private sector now, trying to start their own small businesses in private sector. It's not easy for them because, first of all, we don't have national banks in our countries that can offer them loans that can start their projects.
So the one request that my colleague made, which is to try and support the fast tracking of the act, the Startup Act, it's quite critical because
The two governments of Uganda and Rwanda have finally reopened the Katuna border post after 3 years of closure, that is since 2019. The closure of Katuna border had paralyzed business for a while, and now the reopening is a big relief, especially to the business community. Take a watch.
In February 2019, Uganda and Rwanda closed the Katuna border due to political tension, an act that affected trade between the two East African member states. The two countries are now hoping for normal relations and smooth flow of traffic and people.
Now today is a graceful, a memorable, a fundamental day, because now the lockdown caused by the border closure has also been removed today. I have been in touch with the leaders of Rwanda behind me. I have seen migration officers. They are prepared to receive Ugandans coming to Rwanda. And what is even much more important, they have been restrictive in the cargo and products. But this time there is no restriction. Whatever is marketable, you just bring inside Rwanda. They will buy as long as you know where you're going to sell it.
Kisoro LC5 chairperson Abel Bizimana thanked the first son, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, for pushing the big people to open to better the lives of people from the two countries. Geoffrey Murera, the secretary of Kisoro Produce Traders Association, applauded the two governments for agreeing to reopen the border. However, the COVID-19 pandemic is still a threat, and the people of Uganda and Rwanda have been urged to get fully vaccinated to curb the spread of the deadly coronavirus disease.
Very good news there, of course, for especially the business community. Still with the reopening of the Katuna border post in Kabale district, very few people have crossed from either sides. And by the time this story was filed, only one bus from Rwanda carrying passengers had crossed to Uganda after subjecting each of the occupants of the bus to mandatory PCR test. No vehicle from Uganda crossed to Rwanda except a few people walking on foot.
The border closure stampede between Rwanda and Uganda seems to have come to an end following the opening of Katuna border. By the time we reached here, few Ugandans would cross on foot, though some others were denied entry due to lack of movement permits. Equally, from Rwanda, there was almost no business, and the used to be busy border looked so calm. Welcome. A few minutes later, a bus carrying passengers from Rwanda reached at the border, and each of the occupants were subjected to mandatory PCR test.
Those who don't have PCR at least,
at first,
we have to test.
For us, we tested PCR when we are coming from Uganda.
For us, they saw these documents.
This exercise took over 6 hours before it was allowed to cross into Uganda. Inside the bus, there were few passengers who later narrated to us what they have gone through all the way from Kigali, Rwanda.
The journey was a little bit, was not easy at all. Was not easy because we came here earlier, but we have faced some problems, but good enough. We are thankful, and we thank God that we have reached Uganda.
Besides, each of these was allowed to cross to Uganda upon showing his or her movement permits to the border authorities. It's been almost 3 years since Rwanda closed its borders with Uganda. The used to be a busy business Katuna town has since lied in limbo, but now locals and the URA officials have hopes that the reopening will see business opportunities resume again.
The opening of the border brings opportunities for trade, opportunities for cross-border trade, both informal and formal, opportunities for households to improve their incomes through genuine and legitimate trade.
Following the partial reopening of the border last month, only URA received about 100 cargo trucks coming from Rwanda, though majority were empty. This hampered revenue collections, according to URA officials at the border.
It is very obvious that revenue is based on economic activity, which is trade. When there is no economic activity, the collections will go down. So indeed, in Katuna, during that period, the collections were not as expected because of the obvious reason.
And we do hope business will fully resume and passengers from both countries be able to traverse the border. The Buganda Kingdom has dismissed allegations that Milo land system is the cause of land conflicts. Addressing Lukiko members in the second sitting of the 29th Buganda Lukiko, Katichiro Peter Maiga advised government to solve land problems such as cases that overstay in courts rather than talking on Milo land as the cause of these problems.
The second sitting of the 29th Buganda Lukiko, chaired by the Deputy Speaker Ahmed Lwasa, convened to discuss matters directed to them by the Kabaka Ronald Mwenda Mutebitu. While speaking on land matters in Buganda Kingdom, the Katichiro Peter Maiga said Buganda as a cultural institution instituted a committee to look into land matters and report back their findings to the Lukiko to offer appropriate solutions.
Olukiiko luno okuwa amagezi ku kkubo Uganda lyesaanidde okukwata okugonjoola enkaayana z'ettaka. Emivuyo mu ttaka gye giri nga gisinziira ku ofiisi z'ettaka. Baddira ekyapa ky'akaterega ne bakiwandiisaako ekyampanga kungulu. Mpanga ne katerega ne balwanagana.
Maiga also called on the central government and security agencies to respect human rights. His calls follow media reports on torture of civilians by state security operatives.
Atoba amateeka gatugaana okutulugunya ebisolo ate olwo abantu abatulugunya abantu baleetebwe mu mbuga z'amateeka bavunaanibwe.
Katichiro also revealed that Buganda Kingdom is not in agreement with the decision of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority to withdraw Uganda from the International Coffee Organization.
Bwakabaka bwa Buganda buwagira kaweefube wa UCDA okulabanga nti naffe twesoga akatale gye batundira kaawa ali ku ssa y'okunywebwa tufune kasente akawera tuwagira kaweefube oyo kyokka.
The Lukiko passed a resolution to meet Uganda Coffee Development Authority to discuss on matters of withdrawing Uganda in International Coffee Organization. Andrew Sebira, Sadamu Bale, UBC News.
Now, the General Court-Martial has finally released the former Special Operations Unit Commander, Senior Superintendent of Police Nixon Agasirwe on bail. However, the court chairman, Lieutenant General Andrew Goti, in granting Agasirwe bail, released him on stringent terms, including not to move beyond Kampala and Wakiso district borders.
The former Special Operations Unit Commandant SSP Nixon Agasirwe has once again appeared at the General Court-Martial in Makindye for ruling on his bail application he filed before court last week. Prosecution didn't object to his application, however, asked court to grant him bail to stringent bail conditions. The court, which adjourned for 15 minutes before giving its ruling, when it resumed, the chairman of the court-martial, Lieutenant General Andrew Goti, granted the accused Agasirwe bail of 30 million non-cash and sureties 50 million non-cash.
Sureties presented was substantial. 2, that the applicant proved that he has a fixed place overboard. 3, that the applicant has spent long on remand. This court finds merit in the application and grants bail to the applicant on the following terms.
Court, however, gave Agasirwe stringent bail conditions, including to appear in court twice in a month.
The applicant should not go beyond the limits of Kampala and Wakiso district without court's permission. The applicant to deposit his travel document, a passport, to registrar's office. Breach of any of the above terms will lead automatic cancellation of bail.
The accused Nixon Agasirwe was represented by Councilwoman Rukwago, who was pleased with the court's ruling.
He seems to be excited and he knows the implication of breaching any of the conditions imposed on him. And we think he will abide by the conditions of this court. Until then, we are ready to hear the main case itself.
Nixon Agasirwe had spent over 5 years in Makindye military prison without hearing of the charges against him. SSP Agasirwe is accused with the former Commissioner of Police, Joel Aguma, Herbert Muhanji, the former Commandant of Uganda Police Flying Squad, Canon Dahura Atoki, former Director of Crime Intelligence, Jonas Aiwaza, and Abel Kitagenda, who were released on bail by the same court. According to prosecution, in 2013, SSP Nixon Agasirwe and his co-accused arrested the former Rwanda presidential guard, Lieutenant Joel Mutabazi, who had run away from Rwanda to Uganda and handed him over back. It is also alleged that the accused deported the one Jackson Karemera back to Rwanda without his consent. Joshua Kagoro, Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
Now to matters pertaining to women, and women in Uganda have come of age, especially in the social, political and economic sphere. In the past, it was okay for women to be restricted in education access, politics, and largely left to housekeeping, childcare and farming. But with women emancipation often associated with the value of freedom for the powerless social groups, a number of women have gained access and control of resources in society. And as we hear from Hilda Mutonyi in this special report, women activists contend that government has accorded them only a small portion.
The African culture has experienced rapid change since the colonial invasion. For centuries, it was structured largely around the lives of its children, mainly for continuity and for family survival in providing cheap labor in homes. Emphasis was also placed on the boy child than girls. Until now, many males, both young and old, think it is acceptable to treat girls as objects. Today, there are women who have defied odds. They are focused on their aspirations and they have achieved their dreams.
The time I actually started picking interest on what I should do, unfortunately, is the time when we had all these great women. Winnie Byanyima, the Honorable Miriam Matembe.
Growing up, I just wanted to be the best that there was because I didn't know what was there. Inadvertently, I think I wanted to stand out. Because being a girl in a village, in a family of girls only, I was endangered. I felt threatened.
The Tororo woman member of parliament, Saro Pendi boldness, helped her to reach greater heights.
When I just finished senior 4, there was a UPC man, and I remember he came and they were having a conversation, and this man said, take this girl to a primary teachers college after senior 4. Now, for me, my father was able to pay my fees. I remember as a young girl, I stood in between them because I was just passing and I just eavesdropped. And I told this man, take your daughter. And I walked away.
Opend says, though she is empowered to speak for the female gender, there are a number of shortfalls in her journey.
In this male-dominated parliament is a bit of a challenge because most times we have to lobby them, especially on gender-related bills, and sometimes they really bring us down.
Unlike Opendi, Musumba's robustness to challenge situations has enabled her to soar.
Community and my family made me feel, because they always referred to me as, oh, she looks like her father, or she should have been a boy, or I was this tomboy girl. And so I said, well, what is missing? What is missing? I'm only reminded that I'm a girl when you ask. I only know that I'm a person.
Looking at the woman in the boardroom, one can quickly say they have moved a milestone involved in key decision-making of organization, which in reality is the hoax.
Remember, the Constitution talks about 1/3. And therefore, when they are putting up or setting up boards, they only think of if there are 9 positions, 3 can only go to women. We want to see a situation where they say, well, the women are as good as the men.
And if there are more than one woman, they will go for each other's throat. That makes me wonder.
Amazingly, few of these women that have been at the helm of leadership in politics and organizational management have not worked towards grooming those below them.
Especially women who are big now, they don't want others to emerge. The entire effort is to make themselves the only star. It's a power thing, raw power, undigested power, raw, and insecurity within the people.
Musumba is dismayed. Those women and girls have not received enough political support in preparation for tomorrow's tasks.
The one where power has been thrown at them, they are too mechanical. And those who are prepared for it are easy. They do not load it over everybody. Have you seen me? Have you heard me? Do you know me?
She recaps that although in the past women were restricted from politics, but largely left to housekeeping, childcare, these were strong women who groomed their children.
My grandmother was the anchor of our lineage, and so I knew her strength.
Women emancipation is often associated with the value of freedom, which enables the powerless social group to gain access and control of resources in society. Citing this year's theme, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, Salam Musumba says it is a mockery. Gulu City woman representative Betty Aola Chiana's stand is that women have not been empowered, especially the rural woman.
Right up to village level, we have women council. But do we budget for women council?
25 years after the historic World Beijing Conference, with the advancement and equality of women, the struggles seem to have hit a dead end. The genesis of gender equality dates back to 1964, when the Rhoda Kalema Commission was instituted. During President Amini's reign, few women were appointed to take up leadership roles in government. The 1995 Constitution advocates for equal treatment of men and women in politics, business and socio-economic activities. Despite the gaps, women are no longer behind the scenes. They are in the engineering and construction, market trading, agriculture, gaining more financial autonomy. Today, they have steadily come of age, claiming comfortable places at the high tables of governance, like Vice President, Prime Minister, female surgeons, and CEOs. The effect has also been felt in the corridors of power, the legal fraternity, in the temple of justice, mainly in the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, and on the international scene. Voices of Lady Justices Stella Racha Mok, Dr. Chisache Esther, Dr. Salome Balungi Bosa, Faith Monda, and Julia Septinde, the first African woman, have proved to be instrumental in the realization of justice. The notion that women have been empowered in terms of leadership is a lip service. Women were supposed to be in politics to influence governance, gender, and make it responsive for their needs and aspirations. Activists argue that though there are more women in middle management, the boardroom is still a male-dominated affair, and many continue to face bias at workplace. Mutonyi Hilda, UBC.
Thanks, Mutonyi Hilda, for that special report. And of course, it comes just a few hours to marking the International Women's Day that will be celebrated tomorrow at Kololo Independence Grounds. And still talking about women, Uganda recognized the International Women's Day on Uganda's official calendar of public holidays and a day worth to be celebrated in 2004. However, it is still disappointing that elderly women in rural areas to date don't know about this day, its meaning and relevance. The International Women's Day was established in 1911. However, the United Nations launched it in 1975 before the government of Uganda made it public holiday in 2004. We have this story.
It is approximately over 100 years since the celebrations of the International Women's Day across the world and 47 years since the United Nations launched it. Also 17 years of the NRM government making it public holiday across the country. The International Women's Day was started in 1911 in Denmark, Australia, Germany, among other countries, before it could be launched by the UN in 1975, and over 1 million people globally attended the first celebrations. Here in Uganda, the Women's Day since 1975, when the United Nations launched it, has been celebrated calmly until 2004, when the current NRM government made it public holiday. However, despite the fact that many years have passed since celebrating it in the country, it is puzzling many elderly women, especially in the rural areas, who do not understand the day, meaning and relevance.
Valentine. Simanya nakumeka uruwereraho. Nenga ndulira. Anda rukuzanga wena beyanga nomwami wange akyali. Olunaku lw'abakyala nga munana okusatu.
In various areas of Mityana, Luwero, Nakaseke, Wakiso, among other districts, the women commend the NRM government for guiding them to participate in active politics with men. But the Women's Day, some are taking it lightly. Therefore, as the country prepares to celebrate the International Women's Day due on 8th March 2022, at Kololo Airstrip in Kampala, women in urban areas have appealed to government to sensitize the rural women on the importance of this day and its worthiness to be celebrated. These rural women say government needs to fully involve them in future preparations about the day from the district level to parish level to make them understand that the day is worth to be celebrated, or else will continue perceiving it as a day for only the urban and educated women.
Ndufunamu kale nange okulaba nti nina ekitiibwa mu gavumenti nange nyina kyenfunamu. Nesinyooma gavumenti nti tetujje manju teyina kyetukoledde, wabula nsiima busimbi nti gavumenti erina kyekola ki kyetukoledde naffe ng'abakyala okutujja manju okututeekala tubeerawo awo naffe ne tujaganya ne tusanyukamu olw'okukyakala ne twekyakalirako naye nga luli edda twasobolanga kutambulamu n'olwekyakaliramu naye ka tutambulamu ne tukyakala n'onyumyako ne bakyala banno
baffe abakyala naffe tusanyukirako n'okwejjukanya embeera zetugenda tuyitamu era zetuyiseemu okuva emabega yonna ne tulaba nti kati tuli bulungi bwa twekolera era tweyogerera n'abakyala.
According to the statistics, rural women are over 41.83%. This literally means the elite class has a lot of work to sensitize the rural women about the relevancy and meaning of the day. I'm Navka Farida and Salongo Kasvante.
Different women, they're expressing their views in as far as the International Women's Day is concerned, especially those ones in rural areas. Let's now take a short break and return with much more.
MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily band of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1,000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150*10# or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN. MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
COVID-19 is still here with us. As Professor Maggie Chigozi states, the time is now for all of us to get vaccinated.
When we have one person who's not vaccinated, it affects everybody around them, most especially the ones close to you. Keep your family safe. Anyone right now who's over 18 should go and get vaccinated.
Because of the new COVID-19 circulating variants like Omicron, it is very important for all of us to be fully vaccinated with 2 doses of the same vaccine type. It's only those getting Johnson & Johnson who receive only a single dose to be fully protected.
Even after vaccination, continue to adhere to all SOPs by wearing a mask properly, covering your mouth and nose, washing your hands regularly with soap and clean water, or using an alcohol-based sanitizer, maintaining physical distance of at least 2 meters from others, and avoiding crowds. Echa COVID-19, chija kugwa. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and partners.
There have always been hard times, but these days are harder than most. Everyone is hurting. Everyone needs help. But some among us are asking the question, what if we didn't have to go through life's hardest moments alone? What if we were in it together? And just by asking that question, he changed my son's life. He created an online crowdfunding platform for Ugandans to help raise money for each other.
Thank you, Nixon, for helping me.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Raising voices.
As a teacher, I have the opportunity to shape how children grow and learn. I believe in creating a non-violent school where children feel safe and respected. I promise to lead by example and create a different kind of relationship with my learners, one that helps them grow.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Welcome back from that short break, and this is News Tonight here on UBC TV. And a warm welcome to those of you just joining us. A National Drug Authority has closed all private pharmacies operating in government referral hospitals. The spokesperson, National Drug Authority, Biaz Rwamwiri, while addressing the media at Mulago Referral Hospital, said the entity is enforcing the presidential directive and all pharmacies which are operating in 5 referral hospitals countrywide are now closed.
Following the presidential directive to have all privately owned pharmacies vacate referral hospitals in the country, all have closed, and by the press time, Mulago Referral Hospital, First Pharmacy and Eco Pharmacy that have been operating in Mulago for years were all shut.
The directive was taking immediate effect and indefinite. It's a new government policy, meaning we do not expect to issue any license to private pharmacies within government hospitals. While we closed the 5, we also, as National Drug Authority, we wrote to the administrators of all government hospitals not to enter in any understanding with private pharmacies or drug outlets, because we will not issue them a license.
However, here at Mulago Hospital, the situation seems to be hard for patients surviving on specialized drugs. The patients and caretakers we spoke to are faulting the government for rushing the directive to close all pharmacies that are privately operating at Mulago National Referral Hospital without giving an alternative.
It will, because it has been helping a lot. Because sometimes they give you you need to buy medicine at night when you can't move outside.
But this pharmacy was helping us a lot because the drugs are somehow cheaper as compared to other pharmacies outside there.
Yatsaba government erongosemu mu nkole embi abadde wakati awo mu pharmacy mu kujja mu ddwaliro pharmacies zaffe zikomyewo mu ddwaliro zituyambe.
In 2019, the president had ordered the closure of all pharmacies on allegations of doctors acting as brokers for private drug sellers in the hospitals, but the directive had since not been implemented till he made the new directive with consultation from stakeholders.
These pharmacies had an understanding with administrative authorities of these hospitals, and these specific ones in Mulago opened in 2019. That's when we gave them the license, And in December, the president issued the first directive that this should be closed. Before we could implement, he asked us to stay, to wait until he consults the stakeholders. We received the directive on Friday that now we can implement the closure, which we have swiftly done.
The directive comes amidst embezzlement allegations against the interdicted Mulago National Referral Executive Director, Dr. Berogaba Baterana, for poorly executing a memorandum of understanding with 2 private pharmacies causing financial loss for the National Referral Hospital. Sada Mubale, UBC News.
To courts of law now, where embattled city lawyer Hassan Male Mabirizi has asked court to halt the proceeding of plea over the charges against him following the applications he filed in court challenging the jurisdiction of this court to handle the matter. Now, this happened when the accused Mabirizi had appeared at Buganda Road Magistrates Court to take plea over the alleged charges of offensive communication against him when he insulted the person of Justice Musa Sekana. We have more in this story.
The embattled Hassan Male Mabirizi has appeared at Buganda Road Magistrates Court from Chitaria Government Prison to take plea over the charges of offensive communication against him. Mabirizi is accused of using his social media platform and insulted the person of Justice Musa Sekana, head of High Court Civil Division. The case was filed by lawyer Robert Lutalo. Although court was set to read the charges against the accused Male Mabirizi, this was impossible. When the accused informed the court of the application, he filed in court challenging the jurisdiction of this court to handle the charges against him.
These applications are saying, even the one in High Court, briefly, they are saying the process, the entire process that led to my candle here is null and void.
Following this, Mabirizi asked court to halt the proceedings against him. Pending his application he filed before this court.
It is a personal case, which I know as I prove in those applications that it is based on personal vendetta and hatred against me by the private prosecutor.
However, the prayers were objected to by the complainant lawyer, Nahawe Precious.
You cannot insult a judicial officer. And therefore, whoever does it should know that there are dire consequences to face when you insult a judicial officer.
Magistrate Namboze Sanura, after listening to both sides' submission, was pleased and granted Male Mabirizi's application.
So if we plea take, it means I'm going to sign the charge sheet. And by the mere fact that I'm putting my signature on the charge sheet means the proceedings that he's challenging are legal. So we cannot plea take today.
Mabirizi also asked court to allow him access to his computer and internet while in Chitaria Government Prison to enable him to attend to his pending cases filed in different courts. Court will resume on 15th March 2022 to hear Male Mabirizi's application challenging the jurisdiction of this court, to hear and handle the alleged offences against him. In another development, Justice Philip Odoche has directed the files where 20 residents who were allegedly evicted from their land by Uganda Railway Corporation following the construction of standard gauge railway to be transferred to Jinja High Court for hearing.
In November the same year, I've got a Muzungu where I met in Sweden who came and he was renting this house 2 million shillings per month. I failed to collect that money because they'd already labeled my house.
We had like 5 meetings, like 2 meetings with the Attorney General and around 3 with the SGR project. The government valuer is blaming the Jinja Land Board. They are not sending us the rates. The Jinja Land Board is saying we already sent the rates to the government valuer.
Deborah Namamonde, Nabugude Susan, UBC News.
Ministry of Education and Sports has stopped visitation days of parents to schools as a remedy to counter the COVID-19 threat. A State Minister for Higher Education, Dr. John Chrysostom Muyingo, says the Ministries of Education and Health are still observing the situation on COVID-19 and that in less than 2 weeks, stakeholders in schools will be guided on the way forward.
Parents and stakeholders for boarding schools have been told to wait organizing visiting days for parents pending assessment of the COVID-19 situation in the country by the line ministries of health and education. The directive is part of the standard operating procedures aimed at containing the spread of the pandemic and keeping the already confined students and pupils safe from mixing with external intruders that may be carrying the pandemic.
Visitation Sundays, because our team together with the Minister of Health are carrying out a study which will inform us or to let us know what is it that should be done. As soon as that study is completed, which will take about 2 weeks, which is about 1 week from now, the whole population will be able to know whether visitation have been okay.
On the issue of UNEB registration fees for students and pupils in candidate classes, the Minister for Higher Education cautioned school managements from charging students, saying that government had settled the registration bills for all candidate students. In a related development, the Minister for Energy and Mineral Resources, Ruth Nankawira, commended the Catholic Church for the Caritas programs contributing towards fighting poverty, like the government programs of parish development model, among others.
It's a journey full of blessings, successes, but also challenges.
Let's go to Kyegegwa now, where the Muslim community in the Toro district of Kyegegwa in western Uganda has been lauded for embracing unity for purposes of development. The local council chairperson for Kyegegwa district commends the Muslim fraternity for keeping peace, urging them to avoid associating with misguided terrorist groups.
The peace and unity embraced by these Muslims in Kyegegwa district is what has brought them this far. The launch of the Muslim Charity Development Association is meant to address economic-related challenges. It was officiated by State Minister for Veteran Affairs, Oleru Huda.
We had developed a perception, the Muslims in developing countries here, Uganda specifically, that for us Muslims here, we are poor, so everything that we need should come from Saudi Arabia, should come from Qatar, should come from Arab Emirates.
She was concerned that it took this long for these Muslims to come together. Nevertheless, she is impressed.
The Paris development model is starting. Let's organize ourselves, be part of the committees of those Parises, be part of the Paris circles that will be formed, so that when the money is given at the Paris level, you are part of that.
It is an initiative which, if fully embraced, the life of the people of Kyegegwa can change.
The unity of purpose, cohesion, the peace of mind is what we need for a sustainable development.
And I'm happy that now the Muslim community, we are focused with a common goal of supporting developments in our area.
Everyone is optimistic, including the chairperson of the District Local Government Council.
We have a land which is green throughout the year, but we are not using it well. God has blessed us with a very good leadership that has created a peace now in this country for 35 years. But we are misusing that peace.
The Muslim community in Kyegegwa, you will always hear an ADF captured having a Muslim name. And this has brought some confusion somewhere, somehow. But the Muslims in Kyegegwa have never participated.
Because the ones who have been organized in a different way, they are doing it outside the framework of Islam. Islam promotes peace. Islam itself means peace.
At the end of the day, over 9 million Uganda shillings, both in cash and pledges, was collected towards the cause. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Declaration, it is less than.
State Minister for Gender, Peace Mutuzo, has expressed the need to increase the Ministry of Gender budget for more and better services to Ugandans. Ms. Mutuzo communicated this during the National Women's Council Conference held in Kampala, aimed at discussing issues concerning women and how to address challenges faced by them. The conference was held in Kampala, and let's now get more in this report.
Over 200 women leaders under their umbrella body, National Women's Council, converged to discuss issues affecting women as they head to the celebration of the International Women's Day. The function was graced by the State Minister for Culture, Peace Mutuzo. Minister Peace Mutuzo, who was aware of the challenges affecting women, however, is optimistic that they will be addressed by government.
And if we target the women, we need to empower them. That is the reason we have to align the elections of the women councils to all the other councils and all the leaders to the 5 years. Because we are worried, the parish development model being rolled out, after we have trained the women leaders, and they are put out of office, who will plan for them without them? Who will identify the poor of the poorest who we are targeting within the 39% bracket? So it is imperative for us to ensure that their leadership term of office is aligned. It is important for us to engage with men so that they are not threatened, that their powers are sliding away from them.
Peace Mutuzo also highlighted the need to increase on the budget of the Ministry of Gender, which he thinks that will address the roles of the ministry to the people of Uganda.
And of course, the most marginalized, the poor of the poorest, fall under the Ministry of Gender. So for us to be able to execute our responsibilities, to coordinate all the activities, to bring their issues to the limelight, requires us to move. But every time there is a cut on the budget, they usually choose to cut on issues to do with transport and fuel. For us, failing to reach the people, failing to reach the poor, failing to reach those who are oppressed, failing to reach the girls who have been impregnated, failing to counsel them, means that we have not done anything.
The chairperson National Women's Council, Hajati Farida Kibowa, asked women to address the parish development model, which is optimistic that will help them in changing their lives.
Because it is a new project, and the Women's Council chairperson at that level is a member of the committee at the parish that is going to manage the parish development model. All women at the parish level to engage actively in this new project that is taking a center stage. We are looking at non-government organizations, civil society organizations. We really want the women in the islands to be catered for. We also had an engagement with women with disabilities. We are calling upon all our women leaders to make sure that they consider women with disabilities. Because
this was communicated during the conference of leaders of National Women's Council from different parts of the country, held at Imperial Royal in Kampala. Deborah Namamonde, Nabugude Susan, UBC News.
Enjoy convenience today with Airtel Money School Pay. Dial *185#. Select option 6, school fees. Select option 2, school pay. Select option 1, pay fees. Enter student number. Enter the amount. Enter the PIN number to complete payment. Beat the back-to-school hustle today. Pay school fees conveniently using Airtel Money. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily bundle of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150 *10 hash or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN.
MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Welcome back. Let's have a look now at what's happening in the world of business. Supporting and empowering communities for development through use of technology is an agenda for every company to uplift livelihoods of Ugandans. Now, this is why Airtel Uganda Telecom Company has launched a Uganda Needs More of You campaign that's aimed at improving standards of living of Ugandans through use of technology. The campaign, launched in Kampala today, will run for a period of 3 months and will be presided over by the Deputy Managing Director, Maurice Mugisha, and Dr. Magi Kigozi. We have more in this report.
Which is actually good to them.
The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic that greatly hit the world for over 2 years caused damages and losses, especially in the business sector, leaving many employees cut off at their places of work. This crisis birthed into a concept of Ugandans starting innovations for survival, with many taking up the idea of using modern technology, internet, and social media platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook, to mention a few.
We were really stuck. We had no way out. But we had to think about the friends we have on WhatsApp. So we could just send them messages, they would call back, they would also share with friends at the end of the day.
Last mile healthcare delivery company that makes it possible for you to use your mobile phone to be able to interact with a medical doctor via voice call, video chat, or via voice video chat.
It's on this note that Airtel Uganda has launched a Uganda Needs More of You campaign to see Ugandans transform and better their lives with the application of modern technology, as the company's managing director Manoj Murali and the marketing director elaborate.
Airtel is in Uganda for the last 12 years now. And it's a privilege for us to support the growth and development of Uganda and Ugandans. Built a high quality network at affordable prices, and we are driving digital and financial inclusion in Uganda.
And then as an organization, we recognize that we don't have all the stories, and there are many examples of these stories, which is why we start this campaign. We want every single Ugandan, you must be having a story like this, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for your neighbor, whether it's for a friend, whether it's for any colleagues. Please share the story with us, and let's find a way to showcase these people, what they have done to themselves and to the society.
The campaign slated to run for 3 months is to help improve standards of living amongst Ugandans through technology. To participate in the campaign, one must send their videos via Airtel Uganda website or send an SMS to 162. The Deputy Managing Director UBC TV, Maurice Mugisha, is one of the notable judges on the panel. Ivan Juko, Flower Semper for UBC News.
Is here.
Now, Uganda has identified market potential for its organic agricultural products in Souk Al Jabil market in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Now, this follows the improved quality of Uganda's fruits and other agricultural products. Now, Bright Nuzahura, the Secretary General RAMP's youth farmer group at Souk Al Jabil market, confirms the readiness to receive these products once they hit the Arab world market.
Uganda's organic agricultural products are among the most desired products at Souk Al Jabil market in Dubai, despite their scarcity and market readiness. The Secretary General, RAMP's Youth Farmer Group, Bright Nuzaruha, says there is space for Uganda's agricultural produce as well as the ready market.
We have identified most of the missing products here which can be produced there, and
the supply index analysis indicates that consumers rush for Ugandan agricultural produces first than any other agro produces from other countries.
The other one is organic, fresh, and a little bit more preferable, but not easy to find or not found even at all here. Yes, quality is better than this. As some of the products you see here, even physically, even from testing, it's a confirmed fact, and it's a gap missing which Ugandans can fill.
Jackson Mukalazi, a security officer, Souk Al Jabil Market, says once the missing gaps are filled, Ugandan agro products will override the UAE market.
Find so many Africans coming, including the Ugandans, who want their food from their country, but it is not here. So RAMPS is closing this gap for the youth, farmers, and everyone in Uganda to bring their products here.
Kalanzi says the UAE market can only be sustained if Ugandan youths engage and invest heavily in farming for the already existing market for Ugandan agro products in the Arab world.
So kati bavubuka bannange ayina ettaka lyo tolitunda kujja ku kyeyo, genda olimemu. Muzadde abadde ayagala otunda ettaka otwala omwana mu kiyumba agenda akole, totunda ttaka lyo. Omwana mugulire enkumbi, mugambe erime emmere yo, bw'enaakula tujja gitwala wali.
Irene Faith Nantongo, UBC News.
Let's have a look now at what's happening in the world of sports, and the National Council of Sports Board has been inducted to enable them execute their duties in full knowledge of do's and don'ts, as we hear from John Barnes Sentamo.
Since 1964, save for some time in the 2000s, a new National Council of Sports Board is inaugurated for a mandate of 2 years. What follows is an induction which has been achieved for the new board that is chaired by Ambrose Tashobia.
First of all, to understand their roles internally here at National Council of Sports, which went on well. We also have called in facilitators from other departments of government like PPDA to come and share with members how to handle certain duties, especially in procurement, those who are good in governance and compliance issues, to kind of enlighten members on how they should do their activities here.
This board, named by State Minister for Sports Samson Obua by powers from Section 3, Subsection 2 of the National Council of Sports Act of 1964, is of 11 members, including Zubairi Galiwango.
Firstly, they should get acquainted to the 1964 Act. It is an old law, but that's what we have. You cannot have what you don't have. So we have to get ourselves acquainted to that. We get to understand our roles right from the development of the NDP3, the planning of National Council of Sports, the statutory instruments, and other laws that will enable them work as a council to make sure that they foster sports in this country.
Others on the board are Stephen Kiprotich, Cecilia Anyakolit, Andrew Owinyi, Juliet Oyulu, Dr. George Galiwango, and Piloya Evelyn. The board also has Agatha Namirembe, Anex Susan, and Derek Namisi. These will superintend over 51 federations, including Uganda Dance Sport Federation, that has officially been confirmed.
Great milestone and an achievement, and I would like to thank National Council of Sports for monitoring and guiding the activities and embracing dance sport as one of the major sport in Uganda, a national sport in Uganda. Right now, our emphasis is to make sure that we are going to continue with our programs of developing and protecting the sport at the national level and international level, in the conjunction with the government and the regulator.
One of the conditions for a federation to be certified is 75% national coverage. John Barnes, Sentamo, reporting.
And that sports story brings us to the end of our second and final edition of News Tonight here on UBC TV. Thank you so much for having kept us company on sign language. It's been Elizabeth Nakakoni and Rukidi. Edward Kiijanangoma wishing you a blessed night, but we'll leave you with State Minister for Gender and Culture, Peace Mutuzo, who has a word for you in relation to the International Women's Day for tomorrow. Good night and see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, the 8th of March, 2022, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate the International Women's Day. On this day, achievements on the delivery of gender equality and women's empowerment will be highlighted. The day also serves as a call to all of us to act for acceleration of progress toward gender equality and women's empowerment, with emphasis on sustainable utilization of the national resources. The 2022 International Women's Day will be celebrated under the global theme, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. The theme recognizes the contribution of women and girls around the world towards sustainable utilization of the environment, adoption, mitigation, and response to climate change to build a brighter future for all. Uganda has adopted global theme for the national celebration of the International Women's Day 2022 because of the adverse effects that climate change is currently having on the livelihood of women and girls in Uganda. Women are primarily more vulnerable to the effects of climate change than men, as they constitute the majority of the world's poor, and because of their livelihood being more dependent on natural resources that are threatened by climate change. For instance, women's products constitute 80% of all food production in Uganda. In addition, women and men are highly dependent on biomass, such as wood, crop, waste, and forest resources for their energy and livelihoods. The changing weather patterns, heavier rainfall, prolonged drought, higher temperatures, increased crop failure, livestock loss, and increasing food insecurity intensifies the risk of violence against women and girls. In periods of prolonged drought, women and girls make more frequent and longer journeys to obtain food or water, which makes them vulnerable to sexual assault. Girls who spend more time fetching water have fewer days in school and may even drop out. Women spend more time and energy finding food and water, which means that they might not have time to complete their other household and family responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, in the face of climate change, there is a new complexity of the area of human mobility and settlement exacerbated by environmental degradation. The gradual process of environmental degradation is likely to increase the flow of both internal and cross-border human migration over the next decade. The migratory consequences of environmental factors result in high death rate for women in least developed countries as a direct link to their socio-economic status, behavioral restrictions, and poor access to information. Unless this is addressed, it is a challenge to gender equality. Uganda will in addition emphasize male engagement in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment in the context of climate change, environmental and disaster risk management. Ladies and gentlemen, the engagement of men while addressing climate change adaptation, mitigation, and response is integral. The burden of the effects of climate change can only be borne when both men and women participate. The women and girls who seem to be carrying the brunt of the negative effects are mothers, wives, daughters, and sisters to men and boys. This means that as one-sided as the effects may be at first, men and boys are inherently affected, and as such, engaging in climate change adaptation, mitigation, and response is essential for sustainability and ownership of any intervention. Uganda has registered considerable gains in achieving gender equality and has made fresh commitments on accelerating gender equality in the National Development Plan 3, which runs from a period between 2020 and 2025. This will guide the nation in delivering the aspiration articulated in Uganda Vision 2040. The National Development Plan 3 singles out gender inequality as fundamental causes of poverty and underdevelopment in Uganda. In 2018, Uganda became the first country in Africa to sign the Partnership Plan for Nationally Determined Contribution to achieve national climate goal as part of its obligation to the Paris Declaration. The Uganda National Household Survey conducted in 2016 shows an increase in property ownership among women from 12% to 38% compared to 54% of men, while 31% of women own land compared to 48% of men, which is a significant improvement from 16% of the women who owned land in 2000. Uganda has promoted women's full and equal participation in decision-making in all areas of public, political, and professional life. For instance, in the 11th Parliament, women constitute 175 members of Parliament, where 146 are directly elected as district women members of Parliament. Secondly, out of 34 permanent secretaries, 17 are women, and that accounts for 48.57%. In the public service, women in government ministries constitute 40.1% of the total staff in 21 ministries. 37.7% in public universities. 58.1% of staff in public hospitals, and 37% of all district local government staff are occupied by women. This shows progress towards gender equality and women's empowerment. In addition, Uganda has achieved gender balance in pre-primary enrollment with 49.5% boys and 50.5% girls, according to the Education Information Management System conducted in 2015. The report shows that primary education enrollment increased from 49.9% for girls and 50.1% for boys in 2008 to 50% for girls, for both girls and boys in 2015, and completion from 47% for girls and 51% for boys in 2008 to 72% for both boys and girls in 2015. The secondary education net enrollment overall stands at 81.1%. But girls contribute to 83.5% and boys attribute to 82.3%, according to UBC 2019. Enrollment for girls in business, technical, vocational education, and training institutes increased from 31% in 2008 to 46% in 2016, while female enrollment into tertiary education increased from 43% in 2008 to 44.2% in 2015. The government of Uganda has, through different ministries, departments, and agencies, instituted a number of interventions to strengthen response to the impact of climate change and gender equality. Some of these interventions include the development of Uganda Country Program Paper 2019 by domesticating the Intergovernmental Agency for Development, Drought Resilience and Sustainability Initiatives. The country programming paper was reviewed to include human capital, gender, and social development as a key priority area in achieving profitable, integrated, and resilient economic systems, thereby improving food and nutrition security. Fellow Ugandans, despite the legal framework and existing programs, interventions, Uganda is still grappling with issues of poor management of natural resources, including land, water, environment, coupled with the worsening effects of climate change due to poor land use and tenure, rampant degradation of environment and natural resources, low disaster risk planning, limited alternative sources of livelihood, to mention but a few. My appeal to you today is to join hands with us in your various capacities to support in the mitigation and response to climate change for sustainable development. As I conclude, I take this pleasure to inform you that this year's national celebration will be marked at Kololo ceremonial grounds, and the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Tebhaburwa Museveni, will be the chief guest. Several leaders from the women's movement will be in attendance to deliver keynote speeches. The event will be telecast live on different radios and television stations, and I encourage you to tune in. A circular from the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development has been sent out to all district chief administrative officers, informing them of the theme and requesting them to mark the day in their various respective districts with strict adherence to the Ministry of Health guidelines on COVID-19. Since the theme runs throughout a complete year, I appeal to you all to render support to promoting gender equality and women's empowerment for a sustainable national development plan. I wish you a fruitful celebrations for God and my country.
Imagine a world without bias, equality, harmonious existence, and tranquility. Imagine a world of freedom, a world without discrimination, and stereotypes. A world of diversity and inclusion. That world is possible, albeit at a price. That world starts with you. Join the journey to achieving that world.